Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my first SIP tutorial. What I wanted to do is I've looked out, on the internet and looked on YouTube, and I haven't found, a real good, easy to understand source for decoding SIP traces, or trying to understand the protocol in general. So with that being said, what I've done here is I've made an outbound call to a phone number, and then I disconnected that call just almost immediately after it answered. I just wanted to capture a real simple scenario, just to kind of dive in slowly and kind of run through that. There's a lot of information in these traces, and I still learn more every day. So as I learn it, just as a way to archive it and to be able to refer back to it in the future, I'm going to make these videos and share those with anybody that would be interested. So like I said, probably in the previous tutorial, you can use a filter to filter down large traffic or large captures into smaller ones. In this particular case, I know there's a SIP call that I'm looking for, so I'm going to actually go to telephony. I'm going to go to VoIP calls. And this trace will show me all of the VoIP calls that are contained within this trace, or this feature. So what it sees here is that this was actually the extension number that I used to make the outbound call. So this is from my extension to 972.444.3456, and it gives the IP addresses of the SIP provider as well. Says that it was a completed call. There were 8 total packets and that's just the signaling side. That's not the audio side or the media side. So in the signal side, there were 8 packets that are contained within this call, and those are the 8 packets that I wanted to cover with you today. The call lasted for 14 seconds, and so that kind of says it detected one VoIP call, and I haven't selected any calls. Now down here, I have a few different options of what I can do with this call. I can prepare a filter, and what that does is on the back side over here, all these packets, it'll filter it down to these 8 packets that are involved in this one call. So where this comes in handy is if you trap a live PBX that's running and you've got 20 calls up, it'll list all 20 calls here, and then you can ask your client and say, what is the phone number, what approximate time I can switch, these timestamps to actual date time. But what is the outbound phone number that you called, or where did the call come from, or who made the call? You can kind of get some details to narrow down to which exact trace that you're looking for. And if you capture the RTP traffic as well as the signaling traffic, you can actually pull up the RTP streams and listen to the call. And if they're reporting, call quality issues or something like that, you should be able to hear that same call quality issue within the trace. And you can also look at the spacing between the packets to see if the packets are delayed or if packets are getting dropped and so forth. So anyway, just so you can prepare the filter then this back screen. We have a flow which will actually bring up the SIP stack, so you can watch the signaling go back and forth. So this is basically it's laying out this IP address here is the processor or the IP address of my processor, which handles all the signaling for SIP. And this IP address here is my media gateway, which handles all the audio for SIP. And then this is the actual SIP server. So as you can see here, you'll see it'll point and show you the actual port numbers if I'll zoom in on that. But it'll show you the actual port numbers that you're communicating on, and you can see the communication going back and forth. So you actually get to see more of a picture view of what's happening, as opposed to having to go through the packets one at a time and trying to imagine or write down, okay, this packet went this way, this packet went this way. They went ahead and built all that into Wireshark for you. And they give you some comments over here as to what these packets are indicating. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out for the minute. I'll show you this prepare filter. So if you notice right up here in this area, this field turned green and it's got some frames in there. So what it does is it just identifies by this number here the exact 8 packets that are in that. So let me, I'll minimize this window, and it'll say frame number 211. So that's that frame, which is my invite message, or frame number 212. So basically it's just going through, and it's a big long list of frames that capture that specific call. So very specific. So if I hit apply, then you'll see it filters out all the other information, and now we're down to just the SIP call itself. Okay, I'm going to switch computers for a minute because I actually put this in more of a friendly format to kind of go over. So just going to switch to there, and don't need Wireshark open here. So basically, these are the notes that I've taken on this particular call. Now, what I'm not going to do in this tutorial is I'm not going to open these packets and show you what the invite packet looks like. That could be a whole video in itself because there's a lot of information contained in these packets. What I wanted to show you was the flow of an outbound SIP call. Now this doesn't show the registration piece, which means what this is taken into account is that I already have the SIP truck up, it's already registered, and I can make and receive phone calls on it. And with that being said, then what we're going to look at is just, what does an outbound call look like in the SIP protocol? So what we'll notice here is within, we see the same, this is the same screenshot that I showed you on the previous computer. But you'll see this invite message going out, and you'll see SDP. Those letters are very important because what that's telling you is that within this packet, it also contains the information on the media stream. So if you see invite without SDP, it doesn't contain any information within the media stream. And you'll see here that my PBX at 2:30 is offering, in the invite message, it says, hey, I'm sending you a call, and along with that call, I'm going to say, I will support the G729, G711A, and the G711U protocol. So these are the 3 protocols that you can use to communicate with me so that we can get an audio channel set up. All right, so that's the first message that'll go out on any inbound call is an invite message. So we're saying we're inviting the server to take that call. And so immediately you'll see a message coming back that says trying. And what this trying message is not necessarily saying that, hey, I found who you're looking for and I'm going to start ringing the call. It's saying that I acknowledge your invite message and I'm going to do my best to find this party at this point. So don't get misled by the trying message, because you could see another trying message and another trying message following that, because it's attempting to locate who you're trying to ring. Now, almost, we'll call it a second later, we get the 180 ringing. Now this is the confirmation that it found the user that you're trying to call. So in this case, the person that I'm trying to call is the number 972-444-3456. So it says, hey, I've found how to route this call, and we're going to initiate the ringing of that cycle. So it's just a session update, to let you know, hey, we're ringing that call. We'll keep you updated. The next thing that you're going to see is a 183 session progress. Now in this message, you'll see, remember up here, we offered 3 different codecs. Well, now the SIP provider is coming back and saying, hey, of these 3 codecs, I would prefer to use G729 first. Now this is usually in PBXs that I've seen and SIP devices that I've seen, is you can go in and set a primary, a secondary, and a third codec choice. So if I set my primary to G711 and I set my secondary to G729, then when a request like this comes back, then my PBX knows, hey, based on this, the way this call came in, the user wants to use the G729 codec. So this might be my second choice. My first choice may have been G722 or something like that, and the provider would have said, hey, I don't support G722, but I do support G729, so I'm going to give you that one back. So it's a negotiation, going back and forth. And you'll see it's a series of acknowledgments, going back and forth as well. So, we sent the invite message, and these are all acknowledgments saying, hey, we got your invite message, and this is what we're doing to try to route that call. And then, so the next step that you're going to see is, we sent over the 200 OK. We're sending over the media information saying set the call up on G729. And then also within this packet, you'll see there's more specific information, which it actually gives this IP address out, which is my audio port. Now, it's important to point out where I took this trace, but you're seeing private addresses here. The carrier would actually see my public address instead of in this packet here. The reason you're seeing the private addresses is because I took this trace behind my firewall. So we're on the private side. If I looked at this on the front side of my firewall, you wouldn't see these addresses. You would see my public addresses from my site. Now, okay, so we got the acknowledgement back that, hey, I see your media setup information. I acknowledge that. I'll set it up. The next piece that you're going to see now is this is the audio stream going back and forth. And again, these port numbers become very important because that call now exists between these port numbers. So on my side, on the PBX side, I'm using port 40,036. The SIP provider is using port 26,324. Now these are UDP ports or RTP ports for real-time protocol. So this is my audio conversation going back and forth, G729 codec, and I know the port numbers. So if I wanted to go back into the Wireshark trace, I could filter on these ports and look at it as RTP. I could even go back and play the callback because I captured the audio. Now let me say this while we're looking at this piece of information. When you set up your Wireshark trace, if you didn't include the media stream, so if you didn't plug your media gateway into whatever's capturing your trace, if you didn't set up port mirroring to capture your media card as well as your signaling side, for whatever reason, if you didn't incorporate the media into the trace, you won't see these packets. That doesn't mean that the audio is not there. It just means that they weren't captured in the trace. So you'll see all the SIP signaling, the signal side, but you won't see that the audio side that got set up. Okay. So as I mentioned, what I did is I made an outbound call. So this is me making an outbound call. They acknowledged. We negotiated the codec. They acknowledged, we acknowledged the codec negotiation. We decided, hey, G729, these ports, and we also gave them the IP information of our media gateway within this packet here, or the 183. I'm sorry, in the acknowledgement packet and in this invite SDP, we'll have all of our media gateway information, which I'll go into in another tutorial. So these RTP packets now are going back and forth. We have audio, and so the call goes on and for a couple of seconds, and then after that I hang up on my side. So from the PBX side, which is the .230, I terminate the call. And so what happens then is the bye message goes to the carrier, and that indicates that the carrier never receives this bye message, then unless they have a series of timers going in the background to constantly check the connection, the call would never terminate. So that I know that they received the message and I don't have to resend it, they send a 200 OK back to say, okay, I acknowledge the bye message, I'm tearing the call down. And that's it. we set up an invite. So this is the invite message setting up the call. There's trying, ringing, audio information. There's acknowledgement of this is the final selection of what I want to use. Here's all my media information to set up the channel this way. We acknowledge that, and basically, it's a conversation going back and forth between the two. And the greatest thing about the SIP protocol that I've found is, unlike proprietary protocols, is you can see step by step what is happening in this conversation. So if you can get an understanding of what should be happening, then it makes troubleshooting digital trunks a whole lot easier than it was to troubleshoot analog trunks or to troubleshoot T1 or PRI, because you can see, you have the tools that are easily accessible to decode and to watch this conversation going back and forth. And so you can set up and you can have an intelligent conversation with the carrier and say, hey, this is what I see on my side. What's happening on your side? And troubleshooting, trunk issues just became a whole lot easier. The challenge that I found is finding a lot of good, easy to digest information on the internet of, how to break down these SIP traces. So as I learn and as I figure stuff out, like I said, I wanted to post these videos. I'm open to all kinds of feedback because I'm always learning. If there's something that I've covered in this trace that's not accurate, then please let me know so I can learn from that as well. But my understanding of this trace is what I just relayed to you. So thanks for your time. My plans for future videos are going to be, I want to do incoming calls. So these are all perfect working examples of calls. And then the next, my next phase is after I've gone through, what it should be doing in a working environment. Then, in my career, what I troubleshoot issues every day. So as I come across problems, then I can publish those problems in general terms and let you guys know, hey, these are some gotchas that I've found, the real people in the field deploying SIP trunks are running into. And so kind of watch out for this and learn, what I've spent hours learning, I'll give to you guys in a few minutes. So anyway, give me your feedback, subscribe to my channel, and I'm going to try to get some videos out on a more regular basis. Thanks a lot for your time, guys.